tonight.
Today, I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment.
The Democrats pull the trigger with the president taunting, "Do it now."
If what we're talking about is not impeachable, then nothing is impeachable.
This after a day of dueling constitutional scholars.
This is not how you impeach an American president.
And
a shooting in Pearl Harbor. A U.S. sailor killing civilians days before the anniversary of that day of infamy in 1941. Plus,
that moment was a moment when I kind of knew everything was about to change, right?
Our interview with Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. And
everything is set for the lighting of the Capitol Christmas tree. All this and more on Faith Nation.
A constitutional remedy to protect against a dangerous or corrupt leader. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Abigail Robertson. Those words coming from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi as she announced the House will draft articles of impeachment against President Trump.
The Speaker adding the president demonstrated an abuse of power and that his actions seriously violated the Constitution.
CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us now from the North Lawn with the details. Ben?
Well, Abigail and John, as you guys were just talking about, today Speaker Pelosi asked the chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment. She points to evidence presented at the Intel and Judiciary hearings of allegations President Trump abused his office for his own political gain.
Our democracy is what is at stake. The president leaves us no choice but to act because he is trying to corrupt, once again, the election for his own benefit.
Now, the White House was quick to hit back with Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham tweeting that Democrats should be ashamed. Earlier, her boss tweeted, "If you are going to impeach me, do it now, fast, so we have a time for a fair trial in the Senate and so that our country can get back to business. We will have Schiff, the Bidens, Pelosi, and many more testify and will reveal for the first time how corrupt our system really is." Now, Democrats could vote to remove Trump from office before the year's end. We are actually hearing lawmakers have been directed to stay in D.C. until December 22nd, a few days before Christmas. And the White House is now preparing a defense as it looks like this case has a very good chance of landing in the Senate after the new year. John, Abigail?
And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi fired back at a reporter today who asked what she thought of Republican claims that Democrats are pursuing impeachment because of hatred for the president.
This is about the Constitution of the United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office. And as a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me. I don't hate anyone. I was raised in a way that is a heart full of love and always prayed for the president. And I still pray for the president. I pray for the president all the time. So don't mess with me when it comes to words like that.
And so the political drama continues to unfold one day after dueling constitutional scholars testified on the Hill.
And one witness warned Democrats they haven't made their case yet. And another was forced to apologize for dragging the president's teenage son, Barron, into the impeachment mess in a viral video moment.
Jenna Browder has a story from Washington.
The Judiciary Committee opened its hearings with testimony from legal scholars on whether the charges against President Trump rise to the level of impeachment. Democrats called 3 witnesses. Republicans got 1.
If what we're talking about is not impeachable, then nothing is impeachable.
The scholars brought in by Democrats say the Ukraine scandal is evidence President Trump abused his power for his own personal political gain and that he should be impeached.
President Trump's conduct, as described in the testimony and evidence, clearly constitutes impeachable high crimes and misdemeanors under the Constitution.
Republicans were allowed to call one of their own experts. Professor Jonathan Turley made it clear he didn't vote for the president, and while he didn't defend him, he did say Democrats are moving too fast and have not proven their case.
It's wrong because this is not how you impeach an American president. Why you want to set the record for the fastest impeachment? Fast is not good for impeachment.
Some Democrats asked questions referencing the Mueller report, a sign they may broaden impeachment beyond Ukraine. And then there was this moment that went viral.
The Constitution says there can be no titles of nobility. So while the president can name his son Baron, he can't make him a baron.
Let me also suggest that when you invoke the president's son's name here, when you try to make a little joke out of referencing Baron Trump, that does not lend credibility to your argument. It makes you look mean.
Professor Pamela Carlin later apologized.
It was wrong of me to do that.
Overseas at NATO, President Trump called the hearing boring and criticized its fairness.
They get 3 constitutional lawyers and we get 1. What's that all about?
CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody, says Democrats botched the hearing and didn't break any new ground.
And when it's partisan like this, and you want to move public opinion, you can't be more partisan. You have to somehow figure out a way to get more public on your side. I didn't do that.
And a full House vote is expected before Christmas. And reportedly, the administration is gearing up for a full defense in a January Senate trial. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News. And U.S. military and intelligence sources say Iran is putting short-range ballistic missiles in Iraq. According to the New York Times, it's part of Iran's efforts to intimidate the Middle East and assert its regional power. Discussing the threat with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the people of Iran and neighboring nations are tiring of the Islamic regime.
In this time where there are anti-Iran protests taking place in Baghdad, anti-Iranian protests taking place in Beirut, and we all know what's going on in Iran itself. These are people that are seeking freedom and a reasonable way to live, and they recognize the threat that is posed by the kleptocrats that are running the Islamic Republic of Iran.
And at the recent NATO summit, President Trump said the U.S. stands with the protesters in Iran. And military officials are still trying to figure out what prompted a deadly shooting at Pearl Harbor that claimed the lives of 2 workers. Investigators say the shooter was an active Navy sailor who then turned the gun on himself, taking his own life. CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips has the latest ahead of the anniversary of that day of infamy that sparked American involvement in World War II. Eric?
Well, Abby and John, the shooting happened around 2:30 Wednesday afternoon. The base immediately going into lockdown and shelter-in-place mode. Authorities say the sailor attacked 3 civilian male contractors at the base's shipyard. 2 of them died. A 36-year-old man is still in a Honolulu hospital. Then the gunman shot himself. Now, the question is this: why did it happen? The sailor was reportedly assigned to the USS Columbia, which is undergoing repairs at Pearl Harbor's dry dock. Investigators have not said whether there was any relationship between him and the victims, and it's unclear what type of weapon was used, as personal weapons are not allowed on base. So it seems certainly there are many more questions at this point than there are answers.
And Eric, as we hinted earlier, the timing of this is all noteworthy.
Well, it is indeed. The shooting happened just 3 days away from the 78th anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Now, you will remember that attack prompted the U.S. to enter World War II after it destroyed about 200 U.S. aircraft, killed nearly 2,500 Americans, and injured scores more. Dignitaries and veterans are scheduled to descend on the base in the next couple of days to remember that historic event, and now they'll be faced with this fresh tragedy as well.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
Coming up, behind the scenes at the Supreme Court. See what it takes to get there directly from one of the court's justices. Next.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch. Thanks for joining us. Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, Incredible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today. Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening. My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
Justice Neil Gorsuch was President Trump's first Supreme Court nominee. Now, after more than 2 years on the highest bench in the land, he's written a book sharing his insights.
Senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon recently sat down with him inside the Supreme Court.
Hello.
Hello.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome to the court.
Thank you so much.
We met Justice Gorsuch in the Solicitor General's office at the Supreme Court.
Judge Gorsuch, the podium, sir, is yours.
So many Americans remember that moment when you and your wife Louise walked into the East Room when President Trump nominated you to be a justice on the Supreme Court. But I know there's a backstory there.
Yeah, that moment was a moment when I kind of knew everything was about to change, right? How do you get into the White House without anybody noticing after the president has tweeted out to the American people that they should tune in for an announcement at 8 o'clock that evening? And the answer is it's not easy. You have to go through the kitchen. So Louise and I, our first exposure to the White House was through the kitchen. And then we were escorted upstairs to the president's residence. And he had very graciously allowed me to use the Lincoln bedroom as an office for the day. And so I wrote my remarks for the East Room that evening, seated at a desk where the Gettysburg Address, Lincoln's handwritten copy of the Gettysburg Address, was right next to me. We were asked not to make any phone calls. Don't tell anybody the news until after the announcement, except Louise was allowed one phone call. She could call her folks back in England. She's originally from there, because they figured, who cares? It's nobody ever there is going to tell anybody anyway. So she calls up her father, and she says, "Dad, you're never going to guess. Neil is about to be nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States." And he replies, "Honey, it's the middle of the night here, but I have been following your American news. And they just filmed another fella. He's in his car, and he's at a gas station, and he's on his way to Washington. They filmed it about an hour ago. So I hate to break it to you, honey, but it isn't going to be Neil." Well, Louise said, "Now, Dad, I'm sitting right now in the Lincoln bedroom. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Neil." And he said, "Honey, but this is President Trump, and he loves a surprise. And the other guy could be down the hall by now." So in-laws, right?
As a circuit judge, Gorsuch was celebrated for upholding the religious liberty of Hobby Lobby and the Little Sisters of the Poor against the Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare. In this term of the court, he'll tackle cases dealing with abortion and determine whether the term sex applies to sexual orientation and gender identity. Take us inside the Supreme Court. What is life like for you here?
It is a lovely place and a huge honor. And it is humbling to come to work here every day. I have 9 wonderful colleagues, 8 wonderful colleagues, and 9 of us. Now, do we agree on everything all the time? No. You guys give us the hardest cases in all of America to resolve. Of course we disagree.
Tell us about the 36 handshakes.
This is just one of the traditions that I think the American people would be happy. I kind of wish they could be a fly on the wall sometimes when we're deciding cases.
We do too.
Well, I don't really, no, not you, not reporters, all right? The American people when we sit in that conference room and decide cases, just 9 of us around a table. And before we ever do any business, whether it's going on the bench or sitting in that conference room, we shake hands. 36 handshakes. It's a tradition that's gone on for, I don't know, maybe 150 years. And it's a moment when you touch somebody personally.
To many Americans, the highest court in the land feels a bit mysterious. After all, no cameras are allowed inside the chamber, and interviews like this are rare. But in a new book, A Republic If You Can Keep It, Gorsuch offers insights into his thinking and lays out some of the things that concern him as a judge. In your book, you address access to justice, and you address the fact that it seems like many times Americans who can afford it receive the most justice.
I'm really glad you asked that question. Almost all cases today settle before trial. Almost nobody can afford to bring their case before a jury. It's just too expensive and it takes too long. Good claims are priced out of court, and bad claims get money in settlement because defendants can't afford to litigate them through trial. On the criminal side of the house, we now have so many criminal laws on the books that some of my professor friends say that pretty much everybody over 18 is a federal felon, whether they realize it or not. They've broken some law. There are over 300,000 federal criminal laws on the books.
He suggests judges get cases to trial more quickly, within 9 months, and questions why certain legal services like simple wills and contracts can't be handled by experts in the field instead of expensive lawyers.
I think we have a real crisis in access to justice in this country, and it's something we all need to pay attention to.
Some of the regulations that you spoke about, it's often Congress delegating that authority to federal agencies. And you address that in the book. And I wonder, are you concerned about over-criminalization in this country?
Yes. You raise a question about the separation of powers generally. And what happens when you start muddling the separation of powers? That's what you're getting at. And we all know it's bad when judges act as legislators. I hope we know that by now. But what happens when the executive branch acts as a legislator? That's what you're talking about. Legislation's supposed to be hard and public, made by the people's representatives. What happens when you take it out of that process, the lawmaking process, and hand it over to the executive branch, the president? You have a king. You have a king making laws. And instead of it being public, it can be done in private. And instead of it being part of a process where there has to be give and take, compromise, and minorities are protected, only one person has to be happy with the result.
You have led a storied career that has allowed you to be here as a justice on the Supreme Court. You are a husband, you are a father. Give us a sense of how your Christian faith sustains you.
Well, this is a very personal subject to me. And I have to say that there are certain moments in life when you feel the power of prayer around you. And for me, one of those moments was during the confirmation process. And I can't tell you how many cards, letters, notes, people coming up to me in the streets, in coffee houses, on airplanes. And they might say, I voted for this president. I didn't vote for this president. But they'd always say, I'm praying for you. And I wish you well. And I love our country. And I love our Constitution. And God bless you. And those moments meant more to me than I'll ever be able to express in words. There were points during that process where I was feeling pretty sorry for myself, Jennifer. And I had lost my anonymity completely. You don't realize what a gift that is till you lose it. Sitting in a restaurant and somebody's videotaping you slurping your noodles from across the restaurant. You know you've hit a new low when. And then I realized, as we all do, that when God takes something away from you, He often gives you something else in return if you just look for it hard enough. And what He gave me was an incredible gift. I get to witness now, every day, in countless ways, the goodness of the American people, the kindness, their love. And it touches me deeply.
Well, God bless you, sir, and thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you, Jennifer. Really appreciate it.
When we come back, fewer Americans are giving to charity, but overwhelming evidence proves generosity is good for your health. That's coming up next.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back. Well, fewer Americans are giving to charity. Between the year 2000 and 2016, the number of adults who gave dropped 13%, from 66% to 53%. The drop reflects 20 million fewer households giving to charity, according to an analysis from Indiana University. Researchers believe one factor driving those numbers is a decline in church attendance. Studies show there are fewer religious people in the United States, with the number of atheists and agnostics increasing. Well, another biblical principle is proving to be good for our health: giving.
That's right, John. As Lori Johnson explains, overwhelming evidence proves generosity is good for your health, with benefits from preventing cancer and heart disease to building self-esteem.
The facts are clear. Givers live longer, happier, healthier lives.
Studies show generosity triggers a number of significant changes, all of them good, both mentally and physically.
Here at the world-renowned Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Michael McKee develops ways to enhance the inner healing response of patients.
There are tremendous health benefits to giving.
Stress leads to illness, and Dr. McKee says giving can reverse the deadly effects of stress. It doesn't matter whether you give time or money, or if it's to a loved one or complete stranger.
Well, we know that the giving tends to reduce blood pressure, slow heart rate. Again, giving reduces stress. It reduces depression.
Researchers from the National Institutes of Health studied MRIs of people who gave to various charities. They found generosity stimulates the reward center in the brain, releasing chemicals that strengthen our immune system.
And we know, again, that there's a release of endorphins. These are the kind of magical chemicals that come from various areas in the brain, and they flood throughout the system. They're cousins, basically, but some reduce pain, some kind of seek out sick-looking cells and exert a healing effect on them. They have many different positive effects.
Dr. Stephen Deutsch is the chairman of psychiatry at the Eastern Virginia Medical School. He says doctors commonly use giving in treating depression.
We encourage people to not be so self-absorbed and to think about others. We even tell people to practice being concerned and invested in other people.
He says the more people give, the easier it gets.
Sometimes they may feel initially that it's fraudulent, that's not really who they are, but over time, it becomes more and more comfortable for them, and it does have a powerful therapeutic effect.
So people who feel powerless or worthless find a new purpose and value by seeing their actions help others, and they tend to live longer and healthier lives. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Well, finally tonight, Christmas has come to Capitol Hill. That's your territory.
Yes, it sure is. Fellow lawmakers and the public joined House Speaker Nancy Pelosi last night to light the Capitol Christmas tree.
Mexico for making it so, from the land of enchantment to charming Washington with this beautiful, beautiful tree.
The tree made the 1,500-mile trek all the way from New Mexico to the nation's capital, making stops in 30 different towns across America in its 2-week trek. The blue spruce comes from the Carson National Forest. At 60 feet tall, the tree is adorned with thousands of ornaments made by school children from New Mexico. Beautiful sight there, Abby.
I know. That's a lot changes on Capitol Hill in 24 hours.
In 24 hours, it certainly does.
Yes. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great night.